Hey, what's up, stock compounders? Brad here. So today I'm going to be talking about Chris Meyer, author of 100 Baggers, and what his current portfolio holdings are. Okay, so my approach to this, of course, a while back I read 100 Baggers. It's kind of the book that followed up 100 to 1 in the stock market by Phelps, really trying to dig deep into how does one identify 100 bagger stocks in advance. What can we look for that give us clues as to what may generate these great returns over the long term for the portfolio? So my approach to this, I've seen in past tweets that Chris Meyer, he'll talk about a company and he'll say disclosure long, right? So he'll disclose that he has a long position in the company. And so what I did is I searched within Twitter Chris W. Meyer, which is his name, that's kind of the @ Chris W. Meyer, and DISC, D-I-S-C, okay? So when I searched that, it's turning up all of these tweets that he's made where he's revealed, a long position, a disclosure that he owns a certain position. So if we look through these, disclosure, no position. All right, so he talked about Prosus. He doesn't own that one. Disclosure, long, BOL.PA, okay, which owns UMG. We're going to talk about that in a little bit once we get to the spreadsheet. But you can scroll through here. It's pretty quick. You can pretty quickly come up with a fairly accurate list of Chris Meyer's holdings. Copart, he has a few tweets about that. Texas Pacific Land Trust, Hyco, Topicus. So I went through and I tried to figure out, okay, what does he own? He actually said in his blog, in a recent blog post, he revealed 6 of his 11 holdings, okay, just in that blog post. So I know, okay, he has 11 holdings. Let's see if I can piece together what the other 5 are by going through this Twitter search. So I took a stab at it, all right. Here are the 11 companies that I guessed that he owned. Now, he revealed in the blog post itself that he owns Evolution Gaming, Constellation Software, Hyco, Copart, Texas Pacific Land Corp, and Topicus. Okay, those were the 6 that he revealed in the blog post. But the other 5, I pieced together from recent tweets. Exor, Brown & Brown, Bolore, Howard Hughes, and Intercontinental. Now, I made my own tweet with these 11 holdings, and I reached out to Chris and I said, hey, am I 11 for 11? Did I nail this list? And he said, well, it's pretty good. You're 9 for 11. Okay, so I knew there were 2 in here that he no longer owns. So basically what I did, I looked just through the last 2.5 months of tweets where he disclosed a long position. And there were 9 that turned up over kind of the last 2 or 3 months, okay? Howard Hughes and Intercontinental Hotels did not show up over the last couple of months. So what I did was I said, okay, it's likely that he doesn't own these 2 real estate / hotel stocks anymore. So I scratched those, and I was fortunate enough that when I posted this guess about what Chris Meyer owns, there were a number of you who came out and suggested other companies that I might look into to see if Chris owns those. So here's 3 of the ones that turned up. Domino's Pizza Group out of the UK. This is not the US Domino's Pizza, which is DPZ. It's dom.l because it's traded out of the London Exchange. Old Dominion Freight Line. Now, he talked about this one in a blog post, I think later last year in 2020, and at the time he didn't own it, but it was clear he would like to own it. I think it was just a matter of it not being cheap enough in terms of what the price was at that time. And then the last one, Fairfax India Holdings Corporation. He did write about this in another blog post. He did own it, but he was starting to get a little impatient with it. Okay, the gap wasn't being closed between NAV and what the price was that he bought. So he was getting a little impatient with that one. And of course, there are performance fees involved for Fairfax with this one that were kind of eating away. A big part of the reason probably for that discount to NAV with getting into Fairfax India. So it turns out, I'm pretty sure that Domino's Pizza Group is one of the companies that Chris Meyer currently owns, because this blog post he wrote about it is only about 3 months old, okay? And he said in that blog post he did own it at that time. So I'm pretty confident about 10 of Chris Meyer's positions. The 9 up here, the 9 out of 11, and Domino's Pizza. I'm not sure about the 11th one. Could be Old Dominion, could be Fairfax India, might be one that isn't even on my radar. But what better place to search for 100 bagger stocks than doing a deep dive into the holdings of the guy who wrote the book on 100 baggers. Okay, clearly Chris Meyer put a ton of effort into trying to tease out some common threads about what makes a stock, a great long-term compounder. So one of the columns actually that I included here, I want to talk about a few of these columns. And before I get started, I want to just point out the assets under management for the fund that Chris Meyer runs. 43,200,000. Okay, and the reason that's I think of importance is because when this starts to get quite large, it can impact the size of companies that you can invest in. At a 43 million AUM, I think most of the investable universe is quite open to Chris Meyer, so there shouldn't be any limitations in terms of buying micro cap or small cap stocks based on size of the fund. Which brings me to my first point here. I was surprised to see, what is it? So out of the 10 holdings that I'm pretty sure he has in the portfolio, which is the 9 up here and then Domino's, 8 of them are large cap, okay, over 10 billion market cap. 2 of them are mid cap, between 2 and 10 billion. You've got Topicus and Domino's Pizza out of the UK in that mid cap group. None of them are small cap or micro cap, okay? So that is a little bit surprising because, in 100 baggers, Chris Meyer points out that the median market cap, kind of starting market cap for these 100 baggers in the study was, I think, around 500 million market cap, okay? So clearly, all of these are significantly larger than those. Now, it's possible that Chris Meyer has held these for quite some time, all right, and that they've just grown in to such a large market cap. Another possibility is that Chris Meyer, he's decided, maybe because of where the market's at these days, that he's shopping in the large cap space. He wants to see these companies really prove that they have this long-term compounder DNA, rather than trying to get in earlier with a little bit more uncertainty about how things are going to unfold for the company. So maybe he's trading certainty and willing to give up some return for that greater certainty. Targeting these more mature compounders. So, and I'm not saying that these are mature at this market cap, okay? It really is up to the investor to look at each of these and decide, all right, what feasibly could they grow into in terms of market cap. Next column, insider ownership. I was also surprised in this one. Chris Meyer talks a lot about insisting on kind of a high insider ownership. He's looking for management that has a lot of skin in the game, because then they're more likely to make decisions that are aligned with the interests of shareholders. So, Constellation Software, HEICO, both under 10%. You've got Texas Pacific Land Corp at 4%. Topicus, it's kind of too early to get an accurate assessment of what the insider ownership for this one is, at least from my perspective. And then you got Domino's here, essentially, not even 1% insider ownership. So that was a little surprising to see. I was expecting to see a little bit more consistency above 15% for the insider ownership. Gurus, this was just looking in Dataroma, how many other super investors own these companies. There's a fair bit of representation there from super investors, so no real surprise there. Value Investors Club write-ups, okay? There's a number of these with fairly recent write-ups. You've got Constellation Software just 3 months ago, HEICO within the last year, Topicus, again, just 3 months ago. These might have been the same author. No, I think they were different. Constellation Software and Topicus are related. Topicus is a spin-off of Constellation Software. So, and then, you've got some older write-ups as well. So a great place to start for those of you who are interested in learning more about these companies. Probably what I would do is I would search Chris Meyer's Twitter feed to see, what is he linking to related to these companies. Read that stuff. Search his blog. Actually, the best way to search his blog is to search Woodlock Family and then the name of the company. Okay, because the blog itself, the website itself, I don't find very user-friendly in terms of search. So you could just use Google by typing Woodlock Family and then the name of the company. I think that's going to give you some better results. Yeah, so those would be some good starting points. Now, the last few columns here, how many years has this company been public? All right. Evolution Gaming, this is a baby. It was taken public in 2015. And in just 6 years, it's a 91 bagger, okay? Just insane growth for Evolution Gaming out of Sweden. You can see the compound annual growth rate in excess of 100%. So, I look at this and I think, well, the price is probably pretty frothy for something like this. But, the real work is figuring out how big of a market can this thing grow into, and is there still meat on the bone? Or if there's not, coming up with a price target where, it's compelling in terms of entry price. So this was disclosed as a long in Chris Meyer's Twitter back in April 22nd of this year. So you can get a sense for how recent we have data in terms of whether or not Chris Meyer owns these companies in this column. Constellation Software, so only 15 years public, all right? 2006, I believe this one went public. Almost there, guys, almost 100 bagger status. It's an 82 bagger, 38% CAGR. Phenomenal, okay? So these two up here are smoking hot. And I sorted these by CAGR, just because that's the metric I found most interesting in terms of long-term compounders. What is the CAGR over the period? Most of them are over the year's public period. Some of them I didn't have data for the entire period, so I had to use a truncated CAGR for those. Next one, Heiko Corporation. 34 years public, 367 bagger. Okay, again, phenomenal performance, 22% per year. Copart, Exor. Now, Exor is kind of interesting, an Italian holding company. So I believe this company owns, things like Fiat, Ferrari. I haven't looked too deeply into this one, but could be interesting. Very high insider ownership. I mean, it's basically a holding company for this family in Italy. There's a big investor involved in this one as well, Exor. I'm spacing on the name. If you guys know, help me out in the comments. So that's Exor. We've got Texas Pacific Land Corp based in Texas, obviously. Incredible performer, 424 bagger. I think that's just over the last 20 years or so. Yeah, clearly not for the entire years public. Brown & Brown Diversified Insurance Agency. You can look at the baggers. Anything over 100 bagger is enviable, I would say, although no one should envy. That's what Buffett points out is the only sin that you can't really have any fun with. So scratch the whole envy thing. The next one, Bolore. So this one is kind of interesting. French conglomerate. So basically, Chris Meyer revealed a position in Bolore when he was talking about Universal Music Group, which has obviously made headlines recently because Pershing Square Tontine Holdings is targeting, I think a 10% ownership stake in Universal Music Group, something like that. I'm no expert on Universal Music Group. Karan Gurnani and Jack Duffley are two YouTubers to check out if you want to learn more about Pershing Square Tontine Holdings and UMG. They both own Pershing Square Holdings, so they've been following that fairly closely. But this is kind of another angle to get access to Universal Music Group. And then Topicus, again, this one of the smallest, kind of, close to Domino's Pizza in terms of size. But this one could have a huge runway, all right? For those of you who are interested in investing in software companies, particularly companies that go out and acquire other software companies, check out Topicus for sure. And then Domino's Pizza. I got to highlight a great blog post from Young Hamilton. He put out a write-up on Domino's Pizza in the U.S. Didn't mention anything about the Domino's Pizza in the UK and Ireland, which is the one that Chris Meyer owns. So it'd be really interesting to kind of compare the investment thesis for those, two Domino's in different locations. A bit of a dated write-up, just about 4 years old for Domino's Pizza in the UK. And then Old Dominion Freight Line, again, pretty incredible performance, 19% over 30 years. That's nobody's going to scoff at that. But again, when you get up to around 30 billion market cap, you got to start looking at, well, how big can this thing get in terms of scaling up and maintain the economics that it's had, the performance that it's had up to today. And then very recent write-up from Fairfax India Holdings, and I think it does a good job of giving both sides. Okay, the compelling side of investing in Fairfax India, and also the potential negatives. Because there were, I think, 2 previous write-ups on Fairfax India. So again, if you're, which is a great position to be in, if you're looking to invest in a company, it's great to look at what bull thesis cases were looking backwards to get a sense, might this be a value trap? It looks great in 2015, it looked great in 2017, it looks great in 2020. Is something different now that's going to produce a different outcome? Or, is it going to continue to lag expectations or, lag net asset value by a significant margin? So great resource there, as always, Value Investors Club. So this is it, guys. Just wanted to give you guys kind of the best shot at what Chris Meyer, author of 100 Baggers, currently owns in his portfolio. Big shout out to Chris for being responsive in Twitter. He's a great follow. Definitely check him out on Twitter. Check me out on Twitter. I'm trying to grow my Twitter presence as well. And I've been putting out a lot of content on Twitter recently. So it's been fun. Twitter, I'm really appreciating that platform. I wish, I put so much time building my LinkedIn presence, and I'm wishing I had spent a lot more energy instead of dumping into LinkedIn, putting it into Twitter, because I'm just, even with 2,000 followers on Twitter, and I have like 10 or 11,000 connections on LinkedIn, Twitter, I'm finding, is just so much more powerful, so much more valuable to me as an investor already than my experience on LinkedIn. So definitely get on Twitter. It's not too late. There's a lot left. There's a lot of excitement to go, especially with Twitter Spaces and everything else Twitter is experimenting with at the moment. So check that out, guys. And if you have any comments about Chris Meyer's holdings, or what you're seeing from him as an investor, let me know. Let's continue the conversation in the comments. And with that, I will see you all in the next video. Take care.